Hello, everyone. Hello. Welcome to the Anna Alexis Podcast. I am so excited to be here with you on Tuesday night. I always want to say Thursday, and that literally boggles my mind because I've never once done a podcast on Thursday ever in my life. But maybe that means I should, since I keep wanting to say it. Maybe that's my inner self saying, hey, come on, let's do this. For those of you that are tuning in, this is your very first podcast episode with me. I'd love to know where you're tuning in from. I'd love to have a hello officially, and also talk about what this podcast is for and who it's for. So this podcast is for people that are essentially just like me, and maybe they're looking for something, not looking, but they know there's a something, they know there's a knowing, a something, a pulling, a doing, that they're supposed to be going a different direction. They know they're meant for something more, and they're wanting to get closer to that and how to do that day in and day out. And so it's really just about finding that clarity and that direction to kind of move you where you want to go. And also additionally, there may be some uncovering of things that you've left behind of yourself in the past. So it's not necessarily the things that you need to rediscover yourself, but in some ways you do need to rediscover yourself, because so many times we can get caught up in like this humdrum or this kind of mundane existence of just coasting, that we forget that we set things down, parts of ourself in the past, and we move on. And in some ways that's good. There are parts of myself that I set down that I'm real glad have stayed way back there. What's up, Mitch? How are you? And there are parts of me that I have let go of because I've been tired or busy, or I'm a new parent, or I got married, or I was just going through a different motion of my life. And so coming back to pick up those dreams, and also letting yourself know that it's okay to go into like 2.0 version of yourself. It's okay to recreate yourself. And that just because you've always been a certain way doesn't mean you have to always be that way. And really giving yourself that permission, that grace to move forward, but also taking a step back and taking that pause, taking that breath of saying, I'm going to forgive myself for where I feel like I should be. I'm going to forgive myself for who I feel like I could be. And I'm going to start fresh tonight, today, this month, this year. And I'm going to give myself that grace to be able to keep moving forward. And what I want to do tonight, it's really just going to be nice and easy, nice and simple, but I want to do a quick check-in with everybody because it's about to be the holiday season. We're about to blink and be like, I can't believe it's already Thanksgiving. And it's like, yes, Thanksgiving comes after every October, and that season where you're like, I can't believe it's pitch black out outside. And it's like, man, we are here every year, but it seems like it's a surprise. And during the holiday season, there can be a ton of emotions that come up. There can be that excitement, there can be dread, there can be shame, there can be regret over things where we wish we would have done them earlier in the year, or things that we've just been holding on to, or we've just been standing there too scared to move, and we haven't done anything. And so we just say, I'll do it next year. And just giving yourself that permission to say, hey, I want to do it now. But what I want to do tonight is I'm not checking in on where you are, whatever your goals, your dreams, your habits, your creations, your joys, your sorrows. I'm not checking in on where you are in that process. But what I want to do tonight is just give yourself a second with me to say, how am I doing? I want to ask you, how are you doing? Not in terms of where you are, but in terms of your infinite soul encompassing this personhood body. How are you doing? Because I have to remind myself to check in with myself on how am I doing? Because when I ask myself, how am I doing? I'm thinking right now, my instinct is to go, oh, my budgets are like this. Jordan's bedtime is this. I need to do this before this happens. I need to get this done. Oh, I've got that coming up. I need to do this, this, and that. And I'm thinking about all of these tasks, and I'm gauging how I am as a person based on the list of accomplishments, needs, demands of my day, and how I'm showing up with those. And I need to remind myself that when I do that to myself, that means I'm also probably doing that to others. I've talked about this in previous podcast episodes, but one of the things that I really need to work on as a wife is seeing my husband and not just looking at him. Because when I'm looking at him, I'm identifying him by the same task list that I'm identifying myself as. Of, did you do this? Did you do this? We got to do this. Remember, we got this, we got that. And I'm not seeing him as a person. I'm looking at him, but I'm not seeing him. And that's usually my first indication that I'm not seeing myself. I'm not checking in with me. I'm not saying, how are you, Anna? I'm like, how are you doing in your list of things? And that's one of the things that, for me, I've always struggled with. I've always kind of based my own worth based on my accomplishments, based on what I'm doing, what I haven't done, all the things I could do, and just really pushing myself in that way that I can get mad at myself that I'm not operating like a machine. And now that I have a baby, it is so hard to operate like a machine because machines just keep going and going and going and going. And that's not how I am anymore. So it's like, how do we go and tackle and be who we want to be, living in that happy, healthy whole life? How do we identify the goals and things we want to do, not as a machine? Because as much as I hated to hear it, and you may also hate to hear it, you're not a machine. And you can feel like one when you're in the zone, but you're still a person. You're still an infinite soul being. You're still here for a higher calling than your day-to-day tasks. And are we giving ourselves that grace? And so I want to just check in with you and say, hey, I'm seeing you. I'm not just looking at you. I'm seeing you. How are you doing? And when I ask myself that, I'm like, okay, how am I doing? Okay, work, good. Mom, good. Wifing it up. Could be better because I'm giving, kind of the best of me to other things. How am I going to my dreams? Okay. But again, I'm asking, where am I meeting the mark? Where am I not meeting the mark? Instead of asking myself, how am I? Okay. I'm tired, man. Oh man. Okay. I'm tired. Am I giving myself that self-care? No. Because I somehow think that I'll do that when I have all of these other things done. And I don't know if you can relate to that, but it's kind of like I'm giving the rest of me to me, but there's like nothing left. So it's just a zero. And one of the things I wanted to talk about tonight is, are we living in this unrealistic expectation that is kind of constantly leaving us in disappointment? Like, we expect that we need to get up with joy and energy every day. We need to make sure we're reading and doing audios and working out and eating healthy and making meaningful relationships, working on our business, making sure we're doing our job, crushing our family relationships, going to bed at a good time with a great bedtime routine, and making sure that we're meditating. Damn. I'm so tired, and I only said it. I didn't even do it, but we expect ourselves to be at that 100% in all levels, all the time, and go, 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 go. And what we're finding is that if we don't have a good system in place, if we don't have our hearts aligned with why we're doing it, if our true soul self isn't bought into that, we may hit 100% in all the things we should be doing. But then we just kind of, because it's not really aligned with who we want to be or who we are. We're just doing all of these tasks for that we feel like we have to be. And so are we kind of getting to this place where it's like, we're either getting better every day, or I can find myself stuck in this mentality that even if I'm not moving forward, if I'm not doing anything, at least I'm not moving backwards. And that is kind of where the lie is we think that if we had kind of like a meh day, that somehow we've stayed the same, because it feels the same. It feels the same as yesterday, feels the same as the next day. So it feels like we kind of didn't move. But in reality, we did. And it wasn't this way. It was this way. And one of the things that got brought to my attention, and I'm so glad that it did, was I got sent a little part in the book called Atomic Habits, but it talks about if you work on getting 1% better every day for a year, you will have increased yourself in betterness by 37 times. And that's really exciting to think about. just 1%, I can improve by 37 times. What does that 1% look like? That could be adding one little thing in, not 75, not one thing in physical, mental, emotional, financial, spiritual, not one in all of those, 1%. And I didn't say one thing every day. I said 1%, 1%, not one thing, not one thing in all the things, getting 1% better day over day is 37 times for the year. And for me, when I read that, I was like, man, that's kind of a relief. I could do something 1% better, because how many times do we get into it? Like, especially like if it's with eating, where it's like somebody brings in donuts to work and you're like, you eat a donut. And you're like, well, this whole day is now done. And you just kind of do whatever instead of saying, what's the 1% I can do in this? But on the reverse of that, think of if you're getting 1% worse. Like for me, had my baby. I thought having my baby was the hardest part physically. I didn't realize the compound effect of needing to constantly keep my body on the move so it can keep recovering. So now I have this really crazy sciatic pain that is now burning fire into my calf. But it all started in June when I was hitting a tennis ball. And it showed me when I hurt my back then, I should probably start investing in myself. I should probably be walking and stretching. And I do that sometimes. And as in sometimes it's like once every 2 weeks. And now I'm at the compound effect of not choosing. Because we have to remember, not choosing is still a choice. And I'm going to say that again. Not choosing is still a choice. So if you think like, I'm not going to go one way or another, still a choice. That puts you in the third lane. And I'm having to ask myself again, why am I giving myself the rest of me? How can I find that win-win? How can I find that system to really engage in that? Because they say, going backwards is a slippery slope. Yes, it is, because it's slick. It doesn't take too long to roll down a hill. You ever tried to roll up a hill? How much effort and energy that takes to roll up a hill? Just picture it. Just take a second with me. Picture yourself trying to roll up a hill or like running up an escalator. Not ideal. And in the beginning, when you're doing that change, when you're making those motions that 1% better, it's going to feel like you're rolling up a hill on a goddamn rainy day. And you're just slipping and going back and forth, kind of like Shadow and Homeward Bound. Don't think about that too long because that is too sad. But it'll feel like that. But slowly, as you keep going and you're finding those little win-wins and you're finding those ways to move forward, you'll kind of start army crawling, and then you'll start crawling, and then you'll start walking, and then you'll be running up the hill, which would be you're doing the thing you wanted to do without even thinking about it. All of those things that you daydream that you wish you were really great at, you'll be doing them without even thinking about it. But so many times we can catch ourselves because since we're not running up the hill in the beginning with vigor without breaking a sweat, it's kind of like rolling up a hill, and it's hard and it's uncomfortable. And God forbid you stop rolling, because then you're just going to go the other way. It feels like it's impossible. But understand, the more you do it, the better you'll get. And you will end up compounding into a way where you're like, man, I'm so glad I did that. Because it's not about changing who you are tomorrow. It's about doing something that gets you in that direction. Like we talked about in last week's episode, it's really that 1 in 60 rule, like with boating, is it's going to take to move 1 degree. It's going to take 60 miles to make a small difference, to make a 1 mile difference. But again, day in and day out, week over week, month over month, year over year, you are a completely different place. And you owe it to yourself to find yourself in that place. And so really kind of getting to yourself to say, what deserves the best of me? And what deserves the rest of me, and really taking stock of that. Because I swear to you, I have given so much of the best of me to like laundry, cleaning my kitchen counters, picking things up around the house. That could really deserve the rest of me. Am I prioritizing the things that bring out the best in me and saying, how do I fit these in first? And things like laundry, though yes, important, can really be run at any time. I could start that dryer before bed. I don't need to, put that focus in there. And really getting to that place to say, what is that 1% better? Finding systems that are going to work for you. Because next week, we're going to talk about really just shifting our mindset. because I can get so stuck in that I'm a machine. I go, 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 go. And I'd like to think if I had the perfect circumstances, I'd never have to stop. I now know that's not true. I now have a 6-month-old, well, almost 6-month-old, and I know that that is a lie. So how do I turn this machine mindset into a dance, into being flexible, into a journey? Because when you go dancing, it's not like I need to do this, this, this. You're just going throughout the room. You're moving, you're grooving, you're in the zone, and you're absorbing. I remember once, oh my gosh, I dated someone, this poor guy. I mean, I guess not poor guy because we're not together anymore. But he had said, like, I like to be like a river. And at that time, I said, oh, well, I like to be like the river bank. I want to tell the river where to go. I feel safer being the constraints where the flow goes. I can be in the flow when I've built the riverbank. And I realized over the years how much joy I have stolen from my life because I wanted to be the riverbank. Because think about it. Where's the riverbank go? Nowhere. It never gets to leave. It stays right where it is because it just can't conform. It says, I'm only going to be this. And that's what machines do. They can only be that. And how do we shift and groove into doing a dance? The last thing I want to leave you with, I read this. I've read it every day now for the past couple of days. I've not memorized it, but I just thought it was so important and so impactful. And I just wanted to share it with you. One of my friends sent it to me. And this is the thing that I will leave you with for our Tuesday night podcast. And it says, because this is real life. This is not a fairy tale. And I don't for 1 second think it's going to be easy every day, no matter who you are or where you live. Real life is going to suck sometimes. And you'll have whole seasons that rob you of the energy you need to pursue your goal. But you still have hopes and dreams and goals for yourself and your life, and they are still possible. Sometimes you're going to sprint at them headlong, and sometimes you're going to take the smallest inch forward. But you've got to keep yourself going in the game. You cannot control the circumstances of your life. You can only control your reaction to them. So for those of you, whether you're in your dead sprint or you're in that small inch ahead forward, knowing that progress is important. Your progress is important no matter how small. And I can't wait to see you guys next week as we try to find a way to master from turning our machine absolute mind into a fluid one, like a dance, so we can ultimately live that happy, whole, healthy life together with the people we love, and we're enjoying it along the way as we become the person that we're most proud of. Good night, guys. I love you.